The metal corridors of the alien warship Zirath echoed with the sound of heavy boots. Two tall Ziran guards marched forward, their long weapons pointed at the man between them. The human prisoner's wrists were locked in glowing restraints, and a faint hum came from the cuffs as they drained his strength. His name was Marcus Hale. His uniform was torn and marked with dust from battle. Hours earlier, his ship had been destroyed in a sudden ambush. Escape pods were launched, but his was caught in the tractor beam of the Zirath. Now, he was deep inside the heart of the enemy's most feared vessel. The guards spoke in their own language, their sharp voices carrying a tone of disdain. Marcus could not understand every word, but he knew they were calling him dangerous. Even in chains, humans were seen as unpredictable by the Ziran race. The hallway they walked through was wide and bright, with walls that pulsed faintly with a blue glow. Strange alien symbols ran along the metal panels. The air was cool, carrying a faint metallic scent. The guards pushed him forward until they reached a massive set of double doors carved from dark metal. The surface of the doors shone like liquid. Glass and an emblem of a curved star stood in the center. With a low mechanical groan, the doors opened. Marcus was led into a vast throne chamber. The ceiling arched high above, covered in crystal-like structures that shimmered in the light. On both sides of the chamber, alien warriors stood in formation, their eyes fixed on the prisoner. At the far end, raised on a platform, was a throne made of black stone and silver. On that throne sat the queen of the Ziran Empire, Talira. She was tall and graceful, her skin a pale shade of blue, with patterns like silver veins running across her arms. Her eyes were a deep, bright green that seemed to look straight into a person's thoughts. She wore armor that was both elegant and sharp, with a crown shaped like twin curved blades. When Marcus was pushed to the center of the room, Talira lifted her head. Her gaze locked on him, and something in her expression changed. For a moment, her calm royal mask faltered. Her lips parted slightly, and her eyes widened as if she had seen a ghost. Marcus noticed the change. He had been ready for insults, threats, maybe even an execution order, but not this sudden silence. He stared back, wondering why she looked at him that way. The lead guard stepped forward and spoke to the queen in their language. His tone was formal, explaining how the prisoner had been captured. He mentioned that Marcus was the only survivor from his destroyed ship. Talira raised a hand to stop him. Her eyes never left Marcus. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but carried a weight that filled the chamber. "Leave us," she ordered. The guards looked at each other confused. It was rare for the queen to speak privately with a prisoner, but her word was law. One by one, the guards and warriors left the chamber until only Marcus and Talira remained. For a moment, the room was silent except for the soft hum of the lights. Talira rose from her throne and stepped down the platform, moving slowly toward him. Marcus could feel her gaze studying him, not as an enemy, but as someone she was trying to remember. "You," she said softly, speaking in a language Marcus could understand. "I know you." Marcus frowned. "I doubt that. We have never met." Her expression sharpened, but not with anger. "Years ago, before the war, I was not a queen. I traveled to distant worlds as an envoy. On one of those worlds, I was attacked by raiders. A human saved me." Marcus's breath caught. He remembered a dusty outpost on the edge of explored space, a group of mercenaries attacking a lone alien traveler, and how he had stepped in without thinking. He had not even known who she was back then. "You were that envoy," he said slowly. "Yes," Talira replied, her voice quiet but steady. "And you were the human who risked his life for a stranger." For a moment, the war felt far away. They stood there, both remembering that brief meeting from years past. Back then, they had parted without expecting to see each other again. Now, fate had brought them face to face, but on opposite sides of a brutal conflict. Marcus looked at her, his mind racing. Part of him wondered if this was some trick. The Zyrans were known for cunning politics, yet the look in her eyes seemed real. She did not see him only as an enemy. Tahlira stepped closer, stopping just a few paces away. "You saved me once. I cannot forget that. But now we are bound by a war neither of us chose." Marcus's jaw tightened. "And yet, here I am, your prisoner." Her eyes flickered with something like regret. "The war has rules, and I am its servant as much as its leader, but I will not see you thrown into the darkness without reason." Before Marcus could reply, the doors opened again, and a tall figure in silver armor entered. It was one of the High Council's envoys. He bowed to the Queen and spoke in urgent tones, his eyes darting toward Marcus with suspicion. Tahlira listened, her calm expression returning. She gave a brief order, and the envoy left. Then she looked back at Marcus. "You will be kept in the royal wing," she said. "You will not be harmed, but you cannot leave. Do not mistake this for freedom." 2. Guards returned to take him away. Marcus felt the weight of her gaze on his back as they led him out. He could not tell if she was his enemy, his ally, or something in between. As the doors closed behind him, one thought stayed in his mind. The alien queen had recognized him, and that meant this war was about to take an unexpected turn. Marcus sat on the edge of a narrow bed in the room assigned to him. It was larger than a cell, but far from comfortable. The walls were smooth silver, with faint blue light running along their edges. A single window revealed the endless black of space, dotted with distant stars. The air inside was still and carried the same metallic scent as the rest of the ship. 2 guards stood outside the open doorway, silent and alert. Their long weapons rested at their sides, but their sharp eyes never left Marcus. They had not spoken to him since escorting him here. Marcus leaned back against the wall, his mind replaying the moment in the throne chamber. The look on Queen Tahlira's face had been genuine. She had truly recognized him. He remembered the dusty world where they had first met, a forgotten outpost at the edge of charted space. Years earlier, Marcus had been traveling alone, carrying supplies to a small mining settlement. On his way, he had stopped at a small spaceport to refuel. That was when he had seen the attack. A group of armed raiders surrounded a lone figure in flowing silver robes. She was unarmed but stood her ground. The raiders closed in, weapons raised. Marcus had not thought twice. He had grabbed the old rifle from his ship and rushed into the fight. The battle had been short but fierce. Marcus had taken down 2 raiders before the rest fled. The stranger had thanked him, her voice calm despite the danger. She introduced herself only as Tahlira, an envoy passing through on diplomatic travel. They had spoken briefly, then gone, their separate ways. Now, that envoy was the ruler of the Ziran Empire, and Marcus was her prisoner. The sound of footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. Queen Tahlira stepped into the room, her presence filling the space. The guards outside stiffened, but did not follow her in. "You remember?" she said quietly. Marcus nodded. "I remember. You were far from home that day. I never expected to see you again." Tahlira moved closer, her gaze steady. "And I never expected to sit on the throne of the Ziran Empire. That day changed more than you know. I was traveling to secure an alliance that could have prevented this war. But the talks failed, and the High Council rose to power soon after. They placed me on the throne to serve their interests." Marcus frowned. "So you do not control the war?" Her expression darkened. "The High Council controls the war. I am their voice to the people. They decide where the fleets go, who we fight, and when we attack. They call it leadership. I call it a cage." Marcus studied her carefully. He had heard stories of the Ziran queen as a ruthless leader, but the woman before him did not match those tales. There was steel in her voice, but also weariness. Then why tell me this? He asked. Talira met his eyes. Because I remember what you did for me. You had no reason to help me, yet you did. I have not forgotten. And because I believe the war is not beyond saving, but I cannot change it alone. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Are you saying you want peace? Her jaw tightened. I want survival. For my people and for yours. But peace will not come while the High Council holds power. They feed on fear. The war keeps them strong. The conversation was interrupted by a soft chime from the wall. Talira turned toward it and pressed her hand against a glowing panel. A voice in the Zairan language spoke rapidly, and she responded with a few quick words before turning back to Marcus. They are watching me, she said. The High Council sees my every move. I will have to be careful. Marcus's brow furrowed. And what happens to me? For now, you will remain here. You are safer in my custody than anywhere else on this ship. The Council would prefer you be sent to the labor camps, but I will not allow that. She moved toward the door, then paused. Do you still believe the human way is worth fighting for? Marcus's voice was steady. I do. Freedom is worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Her eyes held his for a long moment before she nodded and left the room. The guards resumed their silent watch, and Marcus was alone again. Hours passed slowly. The soft hum of the ship's engines was constant. Marcus paced the room, his thoughts heavy. If what Talira said was true, then the war was not driven by hatred between their people, but by the greed and control of a ruling council. That meant there was a chance, however small, to stop it. When night cycle came, the lights in the room dimmed to a faint glow. Marcus lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. He wondered if Talira truly trusted him, or if he was just another piece in some larger game. The next day, she returned. This time, she brought a small metal table and 2 chairs, which the guard set inside before leaving again. She motioned for Marcus to sit. I cannot speak freely before others, she began. But here, I can tell you more. The Council has ordered a new offensive against your worlds. They intend to strike the outer colonies within days. The attack will be large enough to draw your fleet away from the central systems, leaving them vulnerable. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Thousands will die. I know, Talira said, and that is why I need information from you. I must know how your commanders will respond. If I can predict their moves, I can alter the Council's plans and prevent the worst of the destruction. Marcus hesitated. You are asking me to give away military secrets. I am asking you to help me save lives, she replied. Not just Zairan lives, but human lives as well. They sat in silence for a moment. Marcus weighed her words carefully. Trusting an alien queen was dangerous, but something in her tone reminded him of that day long ago, when she had stood alone against armed attackers. She had been honest with him then. Finally, Marcus spoke. I cannot give you details that would harm my people, but I can tell you this. Our commanders will defend the colonies with everything they have. If you strike, they will fight to the last ship, Talira nodded slowly. Then I will find another way. Their conversation ended as the guards returned to escort her out. As she left, Marcus saw a flicker of determination in her eyes. Whatever she was planning, it was clear she would not follow the Council's orders without question. For the first time since his capture, Marcus felt a spark of hope. The Queen of the Zairan Empire might be his jailer, but she might also be the only chance either of their peoples had to end the war before it consumed them all. The days passed slowly on the warship Zarath. Marcus remained in the royal wing under constant guard. His room was clean, his food was fresh, and he was not forced into labor like most captured humans. Yet, despite the better conditions, he knew he was still a prisoner. The glowing restraints on his wrists had been removed, but the guards never let their eyes leave him. The Zyran guards spoke little, and when they did, it was only in their own language. Marcus noticed their glances, the way they whispered when the queen visited him. It was not common for the ruler of the empire to speak privately with a human, especially one captured in battle. He knew they were wondering why she was treating him differently. Tahlira visited often, sometimes bringing food, sometimes bringing questions. She spoke in clear, steady words, wanting to know about Earth, about human cities, about the way humans govern themselves. Marcus answered cautiously, giving nothing that could be used against his people, but enough to keep the conversation alive. In return, she spoke of her own world. Zera, the home planet of her people, was a place of vast oceans and crystal mountains. Her cities were built into the sides of cliffs and under the surfaces of great seas. She told him of her early years, when she was trained to be a diplomat, not a warrior. Marcus listened, but always kept in mind that she was still the queen of an enemy empire. Every story she told could be a tool to gain his trust. Yet he could not deny that the time they spent speaking made the room feel less like a prison. One afternoon, Tahlira arrived without her usual formal robe. She wore light armor, and her hair was tied back, as if she had come from training or a meeting with her military officers. "The council has decided to move our fleets," she said without greeting. "They are preparing for a larger push against your forces. I am under pressure to approve every step of the plan." Marcus studied her. "And will you?" She shook her head. "Not yet. I am delaying it as much as I can. But my position is dangerous. The council already questions why you are kept here instead of in a labor colony. If they see you as a threat to their control, they will try to remove you, even if I resist." Marcus leaned forward in his chair. "Then why keep me here at all? If they want me gone, and you know it is dangerous for you, why protect me?" Her eyes did not waver. "Because I remember who you are. Because I believe you may be more valuable to both our peoples alive than dead. And because in a place like this, I have few I can trust." The words hung between them. Marcus did not answer right away. Trust was a rare thing in war, and even rarer between enemies. But there was a part of him that wanted to believe her. Later that day, the ship shifted into battle readiness. Alarms pulsed faintly through the halls, not loud enough to mean a direct fight, but enough to show they were moving into contested space. From his window, Marcus saw the faint glint of other Zyran warships moving alongside the Zerath. When Tahlira visited that evening, she brought a small projection device. She placed it on the table, and an image of a star system flickered above it. Marcus recognized some of the markings. They were near one of the human colonies. "This is where the council plans to strike next," she said. "Your people will defend it fiercely. The battle will be costly for both sides. I am searching for a way to make the council withdraw without appearing weak." Marcus thought for a moment. If the humans appear ready to fight harder than expected, would the council hesitate? "Yes," she replied. "They prefer easy victories that can be shown to the public. If they believe the battle would drain resources or cause heavy losses, they will choose another target." Marcus looked at the map again. "Then you will need to make them believe the colony is heavily defended, even if it is not." She gave a faint nod. "That may be possible. I can send false reports through secure channels, making it seem as though your fleet has already reinforced the area. But I will need a human's understanding to make it believable." They worked together for hours, crafting details that would sound convincing to both sides. Marcus described common human fleet movements, and Tahlira adjusted the plan to fit Zyran communication styles. By the time they were finished, the message they created would make any strategist think twice before attacking. When the work was done, Tahlira leaned back, her expression unreadable. "If this works, the colony will be safe, but the council will become suspicious of my motives. They may start looking for weaknesses in my rule." Marcus stood. Then you will need allies of your own, people who see the truth about this war. She looked at him for a long moment before answering. Perhaps, but allies are rare in the Empire. Loyalty is often bought with fear. Over. The next few days, Marcus noticed a change in the way some of the guards looked at him. Their suspicions seemed sharper, their stares longer. He guessed that word of his meetings with the Queen had begun to spread through the ship. One evening, when he was returning from a short walk under guard, a tall Zarin warrior blocked his path. His voice was low, his tone sharp, but Marcus understood the threat in his words even without knowing the exact translation. The guard's hand rested on the hilt of his blade until the others ordered him to step aside. When Marcus told Talira about it later, she showed no surprise. "It begins," she said. "The Council's supporters will try to make you uncomfortable. They will want to remind you that you are still a prisoner and that I cannot protect you everywhere." Marcus gave a short nod. "Then we will have to move faster." The two of them continued to meet in secret, speaking quietly and working on small ways to reduce the Council's influence. Marcus knew they were taking risks, but he also knew that every day the war lasted, more lives would be lost. The warship continued its patrol, but Marcus could feel the tension growing aboard. Whispers filled the halls. Some Zerans looked at him with open hostility, while others seemed almost curious. His presence was no longer just a secret between him and the Queen. It was becoming part of the ship's quiet rumors. One thing was clear to Marcus now. He was not just a prisoner. Whether he wanted it or not, he had become part of something larger, a hidden struggle within the Zarin Empire itself. And if he was not careful, that struggle could end with both him and Talira losing everything. The Zerath moved silently through space, but inside the ship, tension was loud. The crew carried out their duties with rigid discipline, yet whispers spread faster than official orders. Everyone knew that the Queen was meeting privately with the human prisoner. Some saw it as a strange act of mercy. Others saw it as a dangerous sign of weakness. Marcus noticed the change in atmosphere. The guards at his door shifted more often. Their eyes followed him like hunters tracking prey. In the mess hall, where he was sometimes taken to eat under watch, conversations stopped when he entered. He had not spoken to anyone except Talira for days, yet somehow his presence was becoming a force of its own on the ship. One evening, Talira entered his quarters with a guarded expression. She closed the door and placed a small silver device on the table. It emitted a faint hum. "It blocks listening devices," she explained. "We can speak without fear of being overheard." Marcus sat across from her. "That sounds like you are about to tell me something dangerous." Her eyes locked on his. "Everything I have told you so far has been dangerous, but this is worse. You need to understand the truth about the High Council if you are to help me stop them." She spoke with a calm but heavy tone. The High Council was made up of 7 of the most powerful leaders in the Empire. They were not elected by the people. They were chosen by influence, family alliances, and control of resources. Long before the war with humanity began, the Council had expanded their power by creating enemies where there were none. They claim to act in the name of the Empire, she said, but they act only for themselves. Every battle, every conquest, feeds their control. The war with your people was not born from necessity. It was born from ambition. I learned this too late, after I had already taken the throne. Marcus leaned forward. Then why stay on the throne at all? Why not step down and let someone else take your place? Her eyes hardened. Because the next ruler would be chosen by them. Nothing would change. I remain on the throne because it is the only way I can slow their plans. He studied her face, trying to read her. She was not speaking like a leader, trying to justify her actions. She spoke like someone trapped in a role she had never wanted. "Do they know you oppose them?" Marcus asked. "They suspect," she admitted. "That is why they watch me so closely. That is why you are in danger. If they can prove that I am conspiring with you, they will remove us both, and they will not do it cleanly." Marcus sat back, his mind working. "Then what is your plan?" She looked down at the silver device, then back at him. "I do not have a complete plan yet, but I know this. The Council's strength comes from the belief that they cannot be challenged. If that belief is broken, even for a moment, the people of the Empire will see that there are other paths." Marcus crossed his arms. "And you think a human prisoner can help you do that?" "I think you already have," she said. "The Council fears what you represent. A human in my presence is not a defeated enemy. It is a sign of connection. They cannot allow that to spread." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Talira quickly switched off the device. The hum vanished. A guard stepped inside, bowing slightly. He spoke in the Zeran language, his tone urgent. Talira replied with a short command, and the guard left without looking at Marcus. She stood. "There is a meeting of the Council's envoys on this ship. They will want to speak with me about the fleet's movements. It is possible they will ask about you." Marcus stood as well. "And what will you tell them?" "That you are my prisoner," she said. "Which is true, but I will not tell them why you are still alive." That night, Marcus could not sleep. He paced the room, thinking of what Talira had revealed. If the Council was as corrupt as she claimed, then the war was being fought for nothing. Every battle, every death, was fuel for their control. He wondered how many in the Zeran military knew the truth, and how many simply followed orders without question. The next morning, Talira returned with a different expression. Her eyes were sharp, and there was no trace of hesitation in her movements. "The envoys asked about you," she said. "They are pressing for you to be transferred to a labor colony. I refused. They did not like it." Marcus frowned. "That makes your position more dangerous." "Yes," she agreed, "which is why we must move forward. I am going to give you more freedom aboard this ship, but you must use it carefully. Walk the halls, learn what you can, see which of my officers treat you with curiosity instead of hatred." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You want me to find potential allies?" "I want you to see the truth for yourself," she replied. "And perhaps you will find that not all Zerans believe the Council's lies." Over the next 2 days, Marcus was allowed to walk under light guard through certain parts of the Zerath. He saw engineering bays, training halls, and observation decks where the stars shone like a field of diamonds. Some crew members glared at him openly, others looked away quickly, but a few held his gaze for a moment before returning to their work, as if silently asking why a human was walking freely in the Queen's company. He spoke little, but he listened to every word exchanged between crew members. The language barrier kept him from understanding everything, but he could hear the tone, doubt, uncertainty, quiet questions. When he returned to his quarters each evening, Talira would ask what he had noticed. She listened closely to every detail, her mind piecing together the quiet map of loyalty and suspicion aboard her ship. On the 3rd evening, Marcus told her of a young officer in the observation deck who had met his eyes without hostility. "That is Commander Rhynar," she said. "He is new to the flagship. His family has no deep ties to the Council. He might be willing to listen." Marcus felt the slow, steady weight of their work pressing on him. Every small step was a risk. Every conversation could be overheard. Yet for the first time since his capture, he felt as if there was a direction, a goal beyond simple survival. Talira stood before leaving for the night. "The Council believes they are untouchable. They have ruled without challenge for too long. If we can show even one crack in their control, we can open the way for change. But if we fail, we will both disappear into their shadow." Her words stayed with Marcus long after she was gone. He knew the path they were walking was narrow and dangerous, but he also knew something else. He had fought in this war for survival. Now, for the first time, he was fighting for the chance to end The stars streaked past the shuttle as it sped through space, leaving the battlefield and the Zerath far behind. Marcus sat beside Queen Talira, watching the cold blackness beyond the window. For the first time since his capture, he felt a quiet, calm inside, but he knew the danger was far from over. The Council would hunt them. They had lost a leader and faced rebellion within their own ranks. The war could last much longer and grow even deadlier. But Talira's escape had sent a clear message. Change was coming. Inside the shuttle's small cabin, the atmosphere was tense, yet hopeful. The loyal guards tended to their wounds quietly. Rilvan, though wounded, stood by Talira's side, his loyalty unshaken. Talira finally spoke, her voice steady but tired. "We have crossed a line. There is no returning to the life we knew. The Council will call me a traitor, and many will believe it. But I will show the people of the Empire the truth." Marcus nodded. "We need allies. People who see beyond the lies and want peace." She smiled faintly. "I have contacts in the outer systems, diplomats who question the Council's orders. We will find them. But first, we must reach neutral space. It is safe there for now." The shuttle's navigation system beeped softly. Marcus checked the course. They were on a path toward a remote system where no battles had been fought. A place known for its neutral status among many species. As the shuttle glided through hyperspace, Marcus thought about his own people. The humans fighting on distant worlds, unaware that one of their prisoners was now a key figure in the hope for peace. "I never imagined I would be part of something like this," Marcus said quietly. "Captured, then working with the enemies. Queen." Talira looked at him with respect. "Sometimes the enemy is not the person across the battlefield, but the force that keeps the war alive. We are both prisoners in different ways." He smiled. "That makes sense." After hours in hyperspace, the shuttle dropped out near a small planet wrapped in thick clouds. The neutral system was quiet, its outpost small but welcoming. They made contact with the local station, requesting refuge and communication access. The outpost commander, a calm and wise figure named Lenar, welcomed them. He had long opposed the Council's warmongering and was eager to hear Talira's message. Over the next days, Talira and Marcus worked together, sending encrypted messages to diplomats, rebel groups, and even some human leaders. The news of the Queen's defiance spread quickly. Many were shocked, others hopeful. But the Council was not idle. Their fleets scoured the borders, searching for any sign of the runaway queen. Spies and assassins moved in shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. One evening, as Marcus and Talira met in the station's common room, a sudden alarm sounded. The station's security system was under attack. "Council forces," Lenar said grimly. "They found us." Talira stood, her face calm but fierce. "We will not let fear control us. This is the test of our resolve." Marcus grabbed his gear. "Then let's show them what freedom means." Together with the station's defenders and their small band of loyalists, they prepared to face the coming battle. It would not be easy, and the future was uncertain. But for the first time in many years, hope was alive. The war that had started with hatred and lies was now facing a new dawn, a chance for peace and understanding. Marcus looked at Talira, the queen who had become more than a ruler, and he knew that together they would fight not just to survive, but to change the fate of their worlds. The Zerath drifted through the cold stretch of space near the border between human and Zaran territory. Outside, it seemed calm, but inside the ship the tension was growing heavier each day. Marcus could feel it in the air. Orders were delivered more sharply. Guards moved with restless energy. Talira came to his quarters one evening with a look that Marcus recognized. It was the same look soldiers wore before a battle. She placed the silver signal-blocking device on the table, switched it on, and sat across from him. "The Council has given the final order," she said. They want the fleet to move toward the human colonies. They believe victory will be swift, but the human fleet has also moved. I have received word from my own sources that they are on an intercept course with us. Marcus felt his chest tighten. If they find this ship, they will destroy it without hesitation. You know that. Yes, Talira replied. That is why I have decided we must leave this ship before the battle begins. He studied her. Yes, you mean escape? Her voice was steady. Yes, not just for you, Marcus. If I remain here and the ship is destroyed, the council will appoint a new ruler, one who will carry the war even further. I cannot allow that. I need to get away, to a place where I can speak the truth without their control. Marcus leaned back, thinking through the risks. And you want me to come with you? I cannot do it alone, she said, and I will not abandon you after all we have done. They began to plan. The Zerath was too large to move unnoticed, but smaller. Vessels were kept in the docking bay for patrol and transport. The council's envoys kept those bays heavily guarded, yet there were old service passages within the ship that most of the crew ignored. I know a way into the lower docking area, Talira explained, tracing a path on a small projection map of the ship. It is not on the main security grid. It was built during the ship's first construction cycle, before the current systems were installed. If we can reach it, we can take a scout vessel and break away during the battle. Marcus nodded slowly. And your loyalists? Will they help? Few, she said. Enough to distract the guards when the time comes. But we must be careful. If word spreads before the right moment, the council's forces will lock down the ship. For the next 2 days, Marcus was allowed more movement under the pretense of carrying out simple errands for the Queen. He used the time to memorize the layout of the ship, noting every junction and side corridor. He saw the docking bay from a distance, guarded by 2 rows of armored Zerans. There was no way to reach it openly. On the 3rd night, Talira came to him with news. The human fleet will reach us within 3 days. That is our window. During the confusion, the guards will be pulled to battle stations. My loyalists will keep the docking area clear long enough for us to reach a vessel. Marcus gave a short nod. What about the council's envoys? They will be in the command center, she said. I will make sure of it. The night before the battle, the ship was a hive of activity. Crew members prepared weapons and reinforced shields. Marcus was kept in his quarters, but he could hear the sound of heavy footsteps in the hall. He knew they were moving into position for war. When Talira came, she was wearing light armor and carried 2 small packs. One she placed in front of him. Inside was a compact breathing mask, emergency rations, and a small stun weapon. You will need these, she said. Once we start, there is no turning back. Marcus checked the stun weapon's charge. How long will we have once we take the vessel? Not long, she admitted. The docking clamps can be released in seconds, but once we leave, the Zerath will try to track us. We will have to enter a debris field nearby to hide. The next day came like the calm before a storm. The human fleet appeared on the edge of the ship's sensors. The alarms began to sound, signaling battle readiness. Talira entered Marcus's quarters, her armor gleaming under the lights. It is time, she said. 2 of her loyalists joined them, guiding Marcus through the narrow maintenance corridors. The air was warmer here, the walls covered with exposed cables and faintly glowing panels. The sound of the ship's engines was louder in the tight space, vibrating through the metal floor. They moved quickly, avoiding patrol routes and security checkpoints. When they reached a vertical shaft, Talira activated a small control panel, revealing a hidden lift. The lift took them down to the lower docking level. Through a narrow slit in the wall, Marcus could see the main docking bay. Most of the guards were gone, pulled away to prepare for battle. A few remained, standing near the smaller scout vessels. Talira gave a quick signal. Her loyalists stepped out first, speaking sharply to the guards in the Zeran language. Marcus could not hear the words, but the tone was urgent. The guards turned away, distracted by the exchange. That was when Talira motioned for Marcus to move. They crossed the floor quickly, heading for a small, sleek scout vessel with dark blue hull plating. Talira entered a command code on the side panel, and the hatch slid open. Once inside, Marcus took the co-pilot's seat. Talira moved with practiced speed, powering the systems and disengaging the vessel from its mooring clamps. The engines hummed to life. A sudden voice crackled over the docking bay intercom in the Zairan tongue. Marcus saw movement outside as more guards rushed toward them. "They know," Talira said sharply. "Hold on." The vessel shot forward, the docking bay doors parting just enough for them to slip through. As soon as they cleared the bay, Marcus could see flashes of light in the distance. The human fleet and the Zairan warships had already begun exchanging fire. "Head for the debris field," Marcus urged. Talira adjusted the controls, guiding the vessel into the shadow of the nearest asteroid cluster. The moment they entered, the dense field of rock and ice, the scanner's warning tone softened. The debris scattered their signal, hiding them from immediate pursuit. Behind them, the battle raged. Marcus watched through the rear display as the Zerath exchanged heavy fire with human ships. Explosions lit the darkness, and drifting wreckage tumbled through space. Talira slowed the vessel, navigating deeper into the field. "We will wait here until the battle moves on. Then we head for neutral space." Marcus looked at her, his mind heavy with what they had just done. "The Council will not stop. They will come after you." Her gaze was steady. "Let them. As long as I am free, I can fight them in ways they cannot predict." Marcus glanced back at the drifting wreckage outside. The war was far from over, but for the first time they had taken a step that neither side could have expected. The deep hum of the Zerath's engines filled the air, but tonight that steady sound was broken by sharp tremors and distant blasts. The human strike fleet had arrived. The walls shook under the first wave of heavy fire, and the red emergency lights began to flash across the corridors. Sirens wailed through the entire flagship, their sound urgent and grim. Inside her private chamber, Queen Talira stood at the viewport, watching the distant flashes of battle. The view was a chaotic mix of glowing debris, burning ships, and the white trails of missiles streaking through space. She had known this moment was coming ever since Marcus told her about the human fleet's plans. But seeing it unfold was something else entirely. The Council had insisted they would repel the attack easily, yet she could see with her own eyes that the Zerath was in danger. Marcus entered the room quickly, wearing the stolen uniform of a Zairan officer to move through the halls without drawing attention. His face was tense but determined. "It has started," he said, his voice firm. "We have to go now." Talira turned to face him. "If we leave now, the Council will brand us traitors forever." "They already treat you like a prisoner," Marcus replied. "This is our only chance. If we stay, we die here." Another explosion rattled the chamber, and a section of the ceiling cracked slightly. Talira closed her eyes for a brief moment. She thought of all the years she had followed the Council's orders, all the speeches she had given in support of a war she no longer believed in. She had been silent for too long. "You are right," she finally said. "We leave, but we take the truth with us." She walked to a concealed panel in the wall and pressed her palm against it. The wall shifted open, revealing a narrow passageway. Marcus stepped forward, glancing into the dim corridor beyond. It smelled of cold metal and dust, a path unused for years. "This leads to the docking bay," she explained. "Few know of it." They moved quickly through the hidden tunnels, their footsteps echoing in the narrow space. The faint sound of weapons fire and shouting filtered in from the main halls. At each intersection, Talira guided them, her mind fixed on the goal. She could feel the urgency growing with each passing moment. Halfway through, a guard appeared from a side corridor, one of the few loyal to her. His name was Rilvan, a tall Zairan with calm, steady eyes. "My queen," he said quickly, "the Council has sent enforcers to secure the docking bay. They know you may try to leave. Talira's voice sharpened. Then we must be faster. Can you still call those who trust you? Rilvan nodded. A few remain close by. They will stand with you. He disappeared down another passage to gather them, while Talira and Marcus pressed forward. The narrow tunnels eventually opened into a maintenance corridor close to the main docking bay. From here, the sound of blaster fire was loud and clear. The sharp smell of burnt metal hung in the air. Rilvan returned with 3 more loyal guards. Their armor was scuffed, and their expressions were grim but resolute. Together, the small group moved toward the docking bay doors. When they arrived, the scene was chaos. The docking bay was filled with council enforcers, blocking every exit. Their weapons were raised, aimed at Talira's group. For a moment, no one moved. The tension was heavy, like a drawn bowstring ready to snap. A voice from the front of the enforcers rang out. Your Majesty, step away from the human. You will come with us. The council commands it. Talira stepped forward, her voice carrying across the bay. The council commands war, not peace. They command lies, not truth. And they command fear, not strength. She raised her voice so all could hear. I have been silent long enough. The humans are not the monsters you were told they are. This war is built on falsehoods to keep the council in power. Murmurs rippled through the ranks of the enforcers. Some looked uncertain. Others shifted uncomfortably, glancing at their fellow soldiers. Talira could see doubt in their eyes. The council is not the empire, she continued. You swore. Loyalty to protect our people, not to enslave them to endless war. Stand with me, and we can end this. There was a moment of stillness. Then one of the enforcers lowered his weapon. Another followed. The movement spread until nearly half of them stepped back, unwilling to stop her. The others, still loyal to the council, shouted in anger and opened fire. Blaster bolts filled the air. Marcus moved quickly, pulling Talira behind a supply crate for cover. Rilvan and the loyal guards returned fire, driving back the council's soldiers. The bay echoed with the sharp crack of energy weapons and the sound of boots hitting metal. Marcus saw an opening. Now! He shouted. He led the way toward a sleek shuttle parked near the far end of the bay. Talira and the others sprinted after him, weaving between crates and equipment to avoid incoming fire. One of the loyal guards fell, struck by a bolt, but the rest pushed on. They reached the shuttle just as another explosion shook the bay, sending sparks raining from the ceiling. Marcus leapt into the pilot's seat, his hands moving over the unfamiliar controls. Talira joined him in the cockpit, helping override the docking clamps. The shuttle's engines roared to life. Marcus guided it toward the launch doors, but a final blockade of council ships hovered just outside. Before they could close in, several Zarin fighters, piloted by those who had turned against the council, swept in, clearing the path, with precise bursts of fire. Go! Talira said firmly. Marcus pushed the shuttle forward, and they shot out into the void. The massive form of the Zerath loomed behind them, flashes of battle still erupting along its surface. The human fleet and the rebel Zarin fighters continued their fight, but Marcus kept his focus on putting as much distance between them and the flagship as possible. Inside the shuttle, the tension began to fade, replaced by the heavy silence of relief. Rilvan sat in the back, his armor scorched, but he managed a faint smile. Talira looked out at the stars rushing past. She knew this was only the beginning. They had broken free, but the council's reach was long, and the war was far from over.